So our learning goals today are the following, and depending where you're at, I want you to pick a learning goal for yourself. So if you can see the 5 learning goals on the screen, it might be that you're just here to learn the basics, and so you might choose number 1. Maybe you want to see what it looks like teacher and student side. Maybe your goal today is to set up a classroom. Possibly you want to start to put stuff in your classroom, or maybe even want to plan for your class. And so if you, in the chat, if you would just type 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, what your goal is for today, personally. And Diane, I don't want to exit my screen. What do we have there?
We've got 2114.
2114.
Hang on.
Okay.
1 through 3.
Okay.
And a 6 from Brandon. My goal is to help whoever needs additional help.
Yay!
So he's here as a
Thank
support.
you, Brandon.
Thank you. Can't live without you. Several more 4s, a couple 2s, and a 1 for sure.
Okay. Excellent.
The gamut.
So we're really, the goal today is to go in this order. So, you might feel like if you're feeling overwhelmed and we've really reached your goal, I just want to make sure that that you feel comfortable where you're at, and I don't want to overwhelm you as I go through, because at the end there are some little cool extra things. So hopefully, Brandon, we meet your needs as well for some extra components that you can add to your class. All right, and we are running Tuesday. We'll see how this goes. If you watch today and you think this is how, oh, I have a message that says internet connection is unstable. That's not good. If you watch today and you felt like you got so far and you're feeling pretty comfortable and you want to take it to the next level, you're welcome to rejoin us on Tuesday if you are interested. Of course, it's 2 hours. So to start us off, I'd like you to be sure that you're logged into your email, your Gmail, preferably your school account, because you'll want your Google Classroom for your students to be linked to your school Gmail. So somewhere on a tab in a browser, if you can log into your email. All right. Please let me know if I go too fast. The next piece, I have some weird names of things I call icons, and I do that because I was a technology education / STEM teacher for 14 years, and I came up with these little names for these icons, and it was for students to know what I was talking about. Instead of saying click on the apps launcher, I would say find the waffle icon. And so I do have some names. I'm going to use snowman and waffle and pancakes. And so there'll be just little icons that I might call something. So bear with me, making it a little student friendly as well. So if your email is open, you'll find the waffle icon up in the top right-hand corner. And if you click on that, you may have to scroll down beyond the initial screen, or even click more to find an icon called Classroom. And I have that circled in red on your screen. Of course, you could also type in the URL box at the top, classroom.google.com, if you were wanting to get straight into your Google Classroom. And Diane, I trust that you'll tell me if there are any like stop, whoa, you're not making sense, or that isn't working. Hopefully it's working. I feel like I'm like teaching and I can't see it's weird. I can't see what you all are doing, and that is interesting. So.
Well, you always make sense to me, so I'm going to hope that the folks out there
raise
your virtual hand or whatever, type something in like slow it down or whatever.
Yes, yeah, and please type
helpful.
please type your questions in chat too. That would be fabulous. So what I'm going to do first, and I believe 7 of you in and 7 of you not in the Google Classroom already. So my first goal for you today is to actually have you enter as a student, because I think one of the most powerful things for you is to see what types of work students might encounter, what you can give them, what it looks like on their half. So I'm going to have you enter my Google Classroom as a student, but please listen carefully because there are some directions about you. If you're brand new to Google Classroom, you have to say that you're a teacher, and you can still be a student in my classroom. So if you've never logged on to Google Classroom, so those 7 can take a quick break who have, and if you've not, I'm gonna run through these very quickly. If you clicked on the little waffle icon, it will show you a screen like this. You'll click continue, and the next page is extremely important. Even though you are going to be a student in the classroom I created, please select teacher. I am a teacher. The only way out of this is for your administrator, your technology administrator, to change that code. If you do not see that, they may have to set something up. I think everyone in our county should be all set with that. Okay, so you click continue. Please choose I am a teacher. And then you're going to find a plus sign up in the top right-hand corner next to a waffle, and you'll click Join Class. That's your Join Class icon. And then the code is there. I'm going to show you how to project that code later for students, and I'll also show you where to find that code for your own Google Classroom. How are we doing, Diane? Okay.
Good.
All right, I can see faces, but I can't see anything else. All right. All right, for those of you who are already in, I want you to go to the classwork tab, and if you're not in, go ahead and finish that procedure. I want you to go to the classwork tab, scroll down the page, and open a few assignments. I'm just asking you to look for what you notice and what you wonder about the assignments on the page. So we're going to talk about those assignments in a little bit, but I'd like you to see what's there. So again, the code, I'm going to stop sharing and sneak the code in the chat in case you need it. Okay. So any thoughts about what you see, what you notice, what you wonder in the classwork tab? You're welcome to unmute. We're going to just take a couple of comments. How about we take 3? Are there 3 individuals who might share what you notice or wonder about the classwork tab? As silence fills the room.
The virtual room.
Yeah, the virtual room. So I just want to mention some of the components in there. I'm going to bump over to and I'm not sure if it will go with me. It goes to my new screen. Diane, did it go to my Google Classroom screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So under classwork, you'll see in our classroom, I have 2 just kind of generic assignments. Actually, these are assignments we use for some of our new teachers, for our new teacher academy. So I really just pulled them in. The first one is a Google form. Google Form is a great tool that incorporates really well with Google Classroom. We'll talk about that a little later. I have a Word document where they can open it and it makes them a copy and they can edit it. Under homework, I have a Flipgrid video assignment for them. I have a Flipgrid account, and I also have a rubric in there that says how they'll be graded on the Flipgrid that they turn in. So these are just a couple of ideas. Notice on this assignment, on the homework, it says 0 turned in, 13 have been assigned. So 13 of you have this assignment. And then down below, there is a resource here. It says our favorite quotes. This is an assignment we gave our new teacher academy. So we put a slideshow out there and we let all of them edit the same slideshow. So they were able to all add their own slide and their own quotes to the exact same slideshow. whereas the work above allowed them to each have their own document. So you can decide if you want everyone to work on the same document, which could be a little tricky, especially if you're a middle school, high school teacher and you have over, maybe 100 kids. And so that might be a little tricky for you. And then down at the bottom is just a place to provide resources. I know, Brandon, you mentioned a resource. And so if you'd like to put it on our stream page, I can move it to the resource page. These are just Google Classroom tools. I also have my website listed there and also some Flipgrid. Flipgrid is kind of cool. It's similar to Seesaw, and it allows us to provide activities for students, and it has a lot of pre-made activities by subject area and category, and you can just assign them. So you don't have to come up with assignments. A lot of them are already there and you just link them. All right. I have one more thing to share, and then we're going to reflect on our learning. So the last thing I want to share before we think about our learning goal again is to just mention to you that you can drag these little icons around. So if you had to scroll way down to Google Classroom and you want to move it toward the top, I always keep the ones at the top that I use often. So mine actually has Jamboard, Google Classroom, Calendar, Drive, and email. Some people use Google Keep. If you've never used that, that's a really awesome tool as well. All right, I'd like you to reflect real quick, think about what your goal is and what you hope to get out of this as we move forward. Some of the components we just covered were some of the basics. And we're going to reflect back on that goal here in a moment. All right. Are you ready? Let's make your own classroom. So I want you to think about this because deleting classrooms, after you put a lot of work into it, you probably don't want to delete it. I would try to make it pretty realistic. You can change the name of it later, but it'd be really, I think, powerful for you to be able to make a Google Classroom that you could actually utilize and have kids join, and you could even have a select group of students join the class. So as you think about making your classroom here, I'd like you to think about who that classroom might be for. And the other component that I find really helpful is to have a fake student. So the way that I did this is I used I used another email address that I had another Gmail. I just made a generic Gmail and I used that to be a fake student in my class. So that's an option for you. All right, are we ready? We're going to click on the plus sign again. So if you're in Google Classroom, you're going to go up to the plus sign at your start page. So I'm clicking on the title of my classroom on the far left I call those the 3 layers, I call those pancakes. Some people call it a cheeseburger or a burger. But this pancake here takes me to my start page, and then over on the right, I'll see some different icons here. I want to go all the way back out. So I'm going to click on those pancakes. I'm going to go to classes, and I'm back out at this page here. So let me take you back into the slide so you can see how that happened. So when we're back at our main screen of classes, we should be able to click on the plus sign. And this time we're going to click Create Class. So plus and Create Class. Okay. One thing I try to do when I create classes, one of the most important thing I try to do is put the year. So I might put, if I'm making a class for next year, I might put 2020 to 2021. I also oftentimes, if I'm doing it for different hours or different groups of kids, maybe I see 3rd graders and 4th graders, and so I might say science 3rd grade 2021 or put the year or date in there. It helps just to organize them when you have a lot of them. Okay. So I just want to repeat again, you logged on as a teacher. Teachers can be students in a classroom like you are in mine, or you can be the teacher of a classroom. Another neat thing is you may add teachers to your classroom. So let's say you have a special education teacher who works with your students, or even you have other individuals, other teachers in your building who also see your students. It's a good idea to let them have access as a teacher. And we'll go through that. Okay. So name your class and create. You really don't need anything else. It's all optional. We don't always have specifics for each of those. I might say section, second hour, or subject. I might put ELA and science or something if those are the classes I teach. All right, I'm going to go back to my classroom, I think. I think I closed it. Okay. So as I'm back in the classroom and I'm back at this main page here, you can move these around as well. So you can drag these and move these. They're called class cards. You may drag and move them. So those are something that sometimes people like to delete them or archive them. We'll talk about that. But if you just move them, sometimes they'll go out of the way. So I'm going to talk, this screen right here that you see is that page when you open a class. So here is all the classes. If I open a class, I'll see these same components around every single class. So we're going to go through some of those pieces to this. So I'll go back to classes, I'll open our class. You can change pictures, you can do lots of things to yours. I actually had a sunset in here and then I decided that was making me think of summer, so I changed it back to purple, but you can make it any photo you would like on your screen. I like to have pictures of kids on there too. I think that's kind of cool. All right, someone's just joining us. Oh, it looks like Anne is coming back to join us. So let's talk about the menu when you're in a classroom. There's the classroom menu. I call it the pancake icon. That actually takes me back to all the classrooms. The classroom tabs at the top are called Stream, Classwork, People, and Grades. Not a lot of people use Google Classroom for grades, but it is, and those of you using Schoology, or I'm sorry, not Schoology, Synergy, might find that piece pretty cool. The settings is the little wheel icon on the far right. There's a drop down show class details. I'm going to demo that piece for you. So if I'm in here, oh, I didn't put any details in mine, sorry. If you had class details about hour in session in that, it would drop down. Change the theme. They have many different themes, and then you can also upload a picture. I was watching last night I was watching a virtual, I had a webinar running and the lady had put her Bitmoji on there. It was very cute. I should have done that. Okay. So I talked about the classrooms can be organized, the class cards can be organized. And in doing so, notice the newest ones will always be at the top. You don't always want that. Sometimes you want it in different order and you could just click and drag and reorganize those by dropping the cards. All right, so we're going to talk about another icon. I'm so untechnical. I'm sure it has a name. I call it the snowman. It's the three dots, the three vertical dots, and each class card at your menu, at your main screen, there is a snowman and it has different options. So basically, you used to have to click on that to move the card. Now you can just drag that. There's an edit option. You can change the name of the class. Copy is kind of cool because we're able to do that when we run workshops that we're going to repeat. and we want new students to be in that new class, and so we will copy the class. All the assignments will come over as drafts, so you can use them or not use them, and that's really neat, so you don't have to go searching for those assignments. So I'd highly recommend that instead of ever deleting a class, that you do what's called archive. Archive a class just kind of makes it disappear, but yet all those assignments are still accessible to you. If you delete the class, the assignments that you had in that class, you cannot reuse those. You can't reuse the post or anything you had in there. So I'd prefer, when I'm doing and I don't want to see classes any longer, I prefer to archive them. I can still use assignments from the class, but I don't see them on this page. All right, hang in there. I've got a couple more pieces here, and then we're going to start some actual work. So here at the menu, oh, I have Nikki just joining us. Nikki was out delivering food. Hi, Nikki, can you hear me? Maybe Nikki has her mute on. Nikki was out delivering food for Colin, so I think, thank you, Nikki, for doing that today. So at this menu, I want you to click, if you have a Google Classroom open, if you click on the menu, which is the pancakes, we have classes, we can see all the class cards, we have a calendar if you make assignments and you give them a due date, and then I have all the classes I'm teaching, and I have other classes that I am a student in. So these are I'm a student in these classes, I'm enrolled in these classes, and the classes above are all the classes that I have that are that show. You won't see my archived classes in here. If I want to see my archived classes, I'll need to go to the archived. See if I can get down there. It's not going to let me down there. But I can see my archive classes if I scroll down. You'll see it here on the slideshow. Okay. I'm going to have you start by clicking on the bottom button on this menu. It's called Settings. Okay, and when you click Settings, the settings, a little wheel at the bottom of that menu. When you open Settings, you'll see that you can set up your profile. Some teachers like to put a picture of themselves or a Bitmoji or maybe a sunset or something fun in there. Then the notification piece. This part, I had probably about 140 kids a day. I turned off the notifications because my phone was blowing up. Every time they submitted or posted or commented or anything that was happening in my Google Classroom, I was receiving emails every single time. So as a teacher, it really depends on how many students you have, and if maybe you can go in and turn it on and off when you want to. So maybe you're waiting for some work to be turned in because grades are due. You might want to go in and turn that notification on so you receive notifications when students submit work or when they comment or have a question. That is really depends on, you know, like, hey, it's not where I'm on spring break, I'm going to turn those notifications off. So that's a preference of yours. So if you scroll down the settings window, the next piece are on comments. So these are comments on the first section is comments on items you post. Do you want students to comment on your post? Now again, I normally when I start using Google Classroom, I turn all of these off until I really talk about my norms, my expectations with kids, and what's like appropriate and unappropriate to do, not appropriate to do. So right now I have all those turned on. So people can comment on things I post, people can comment, make comments that mention me. And also I can see private comments on their work and they can see them. So if I'm a student, classes that I'm enrolled in, there's other notifications that can be turned on. Sometimes it's nice to turn them all on and see what they do and see if you like them or not. And if you say, oh, that didn't work, I didn't like that, you can then go in and turn them off. So this is all under that settings, that little gear tab on that main homepage menu. And then there's more. You can control email notifications by course. So maybe my calculus class, I absolutely need to hear from them because we have a big assignment due. But I might have my second graders in doing something and I don't want them like during class to be sending me all this stuff. And so I might turn off my notifications for those second graders, depending on like what activity is taking place and how many kids you have on and what's happening. So you can adjust which classes you would want notifications from. Okay. I'd like you to go back to, now go into in our class page. So Nikki, how are you doing? Are you with us? Do you need the slideshow link?
I am with you. I just logged on.
Okay. All right. So Nikki, if you go way, way up the chat, there's a link to our slideshow that you can access.
Hang on, let me get into my computer. I'm on my phone right now, so give me one second.
No problem. Yeah, I see your finger.
I might have to. Yeah,
All
I
right.
might have to.
So we'll check back with you. How's that?
That's fine.
Okay, you can still hear us though, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, and I know you'll pick this up pretty quickly. All right, so back at ours, so if I go back into my Google Classroom, and I'm gonna go to classes, this is our class card page. I'm gonna pick the classroom that we're in right now, and it takes us to this page right here. So this is the page we're gonna talk about next. So we talked about the main menu, the main screen, some of the settings and options for notifications, and we're gonna go into our actual class. Now, if you would like to go into the class you made instead of the class you're a student in, either way is totally fine. So right now you could be in your own class or in the class that I provided. So we have the class menu up here. That's where you get to those options we are just at. Classroom tabs we talked about, settings, detail, and help. So we're back at this screen. So from here, we're going to start diving into some of these pieces. We just did classroom menu, so we're going to go into the help. If you are a Google Classroom guru, so Brandon, I'm tagging you on this. This is a really cool menu item. It always says what's new and some of the cool features that sometimes we don't even know that they've come out with. So this gives us an idea of some of the new pieces that might be available that we don't actually see. If we're having problems or we want to give feedback to the Google Classroom team, they actually do have a link there that allows you to send them like, hey, what if you did this, or could you try to change this piece of it because it doesn't work well for my students. So they're constantly taking feedback and constantly revamping the program. There is a help center. I also find that I'll often just go to a Google and I'll type in what I'm wanting to know, and I just search it through Google, or there is the help center. Okay, so that we got to that from the question mark on the bottom of our class page. So up in the top right-hand corner, it's called settings. So there's a settings here, and there was a settings on the main screen. So the settings here allows you to really change some pieces of your classroom. Some of this you probably recognize because when you set up your class, here was the name of your class, and in some of the pieces here. So this gives you options for grading. Not a lot of people use the grading part, but it gives you the class details. You can edit those at any time. If you scroll down a little further, you'll see general tabs. There's your code there. Some individuals will use this screen to copy and paste the code. And under stream, that's your main page, and I have it selected as students can post and comment. Now that's really tricky. I wouldn't recommend starting with your Google Classroom having students be able to just comment and post things on your main streaming page. I have it set up so you can do that, but I would encourage you to think about how that would look in your classroom. And then it says, I have it set up to show condensed notifications, so it doesn't show me everything that the student typed. And then there are some other details there. And then at the bottom of the setting options, under settings, you can, the other options to have students post and comment is students can only comment. That's actually a pretty cool thing, and only teachers can post and comment. You might want to start with just teachers, but it is really cool. It's a great collaboration tool if you can have students reach that ability to be able to comment on other students' activities or work, or if a student has a question, a student could give them some advice, a little peer coaching there. I have never used the gradebook portion of this. I mean, I grade things online, but I've never done anything with the grades, like export them and into a file and then import them in another program. And so I've not done anything with weighted grades. And so if that's something you do, this is the spot where you would be able to do that. All right, we're just about to the end of this section of the PD. And again, if you need to get up and stretch and do that, if you need to do that. Okay. So inviting students to your classroom, depending on what age and grade level and how many students you have, I would have never wanted to type every student's email in here. I normally project the code to the class, and or I have it on a poster in my classroom, and they join the class using my class code. Now, the only thing with that is you have to monitor and make sure other students in the building aren't joining your class if you don't want that. By providing the class code, anyone who has the class code can join your class. So the risk of doing that is just making sure you keep track of who's in your classroom. By inviting them with email, you just enter all their emails in here. And normally it picks up your Gmail account. So if you start typing a student's name, it's going to recognize who that student is and pop their email in there. But you use that little people tab right there to add students to your class. Now, I sent you all the code, so you were able to go join class and enter the code. And that actually, if you have a lot of students, that's probably the most effective way to do that. So you can project the class code to the class, and I project it from, I'm going to show you how I got there. From my screen here, it says class code, and there's like a display option. On the left under St. Joseph County, it says class code and then my code, and I can display it. Now, what I actually do with this is I take a screenshot of it and put it in a slideshow so that, like, if I'm running my lesson for today and I usually have it on a slideshow, that code would appear really large. Or I could do a print screen and print it here. Okay. So that's how this appeared very large. I just enlarged it. The other place to get the class code is in settings under general, and the class code was there. So I'll show you that again. I'm going to close. I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to scroll down, and there's under general says class code, and here is a display option. So I can actually display the class code from there. It's just not as quick as easy as the other one. I can also copy it. Copying it is a great idea. When I sent it all to you, I copied it to make sure I didn't type it incorrectly, because you know, Google likes to fix our spelling, and it would not have liked that code, so I did a copy paste. There is a way to reset and disable, so maybe you have some students in, or you have a new group of students, you want to exit the other ones and not have them join your new class, you can reset or disable that code to protect your class. It really depends what setting you're in, but sometimes there are times where you don't want kids to be in your Google Classroom that are not your students. And those of you who have secondary probably can relate that could get a little tricky. All right, we're going to reflect. I can reflect where we are, what we've done. Okay, we've gone over some basics. We've talked about being a teacher and a student. You've had an opportunity to set up a Google Classroom. We've really not done anything with 4 and 5 yet. Unless you've gone, please go ahead. This is learn at your own pace. So if you've moved ahead and tried some things, that's awesome. I'm not going to have you type this in the chat. I just wanted to give you a moment to reflect where you are and how you're doing on your goal for the day. So Nikki, this was something we showed early on, and this is really the progression of the work that I was doing there during this time with everyone, and everyone's on a different page as to their Google Classroom understanding. So this gives you a chance to really set a personal goal for yourself. Diane, is there anything? I've been doing a lot of talking. This is so strange.
No, Brad left a message just quite a bit ago about how much his students enjoy Flipgrid, and we see that you have that as one of your assignments. So it'll be interesting to talk a bit about that and see if anyone else has experience with that. And I did repost the presentation link for anybody who's joined in, and maybe they want to open up, if they've got a couple screens to work on, it might be beneficial to open up both the classroom and the presentation and the Zoom link. It's a lot to fit onto a tiny screen, but if you've got multiple monitors, it might be helpful to do that. I find myself flipping back and forth between. Doing a great job, Kathleen. Again, if you've got questions or comments or just have something to share, pop it in here. And it's so, you know, I'm learning that sitting in these meetings 8 hours a day is taxing. So if you need to get up and move around and stretch, nobody's going to laugh at you. If you want to blank your screen out and do that, go ahead, but move when you need to move.
Yes, yes. And because I was not planning to stop and take a break, we probably will get done before the 2 o'clock mark. I'm looking at 12:44, and maybe I was moving too fast. I hope I wasn't, because I kind of practiced. I know it sounds crazy, but I did practice like going through this, and I thought it was going to be close to 2. So we'll see how we do, but I'd also be happy to stay online if you want to play with some things and add some things, and we can even look at some other resources, which I have linked at the end. All right, take a deep breath. Here we go. We're gonna dig in further to the inside of the classroom. So when you're in your classroom, either in your classroom or the classroom that I provided, we're gonna start by talking about this stream page. So we've talked about the menu, we've talked about the class code, we've talked about the settings over here on the right. We're really gonna talk about these menu items here at the top. So here we go. The stream tab. This to me, I'm just going to be really honest, this is a messy place for me. I like things really organized, and when my stream starts to get really full, it stresses me out a little bit because can be a lot happening here. I try to post as little as possible on my stream. Like if I'm gonna I want the kids to do something or read something or look at something, I try to put it in classwork and organize it by topic. We're gonna talk about that in a little bit. But the stream can get really, really messy. Now you can reorganize things in the stream, but it really is what the kids see when they first log on. You can put assignments there, but you cannot create them in this tab. I would encourage you to keep assignments in a tab called classwork. So one thing you see in mine, I'm going to go back to my stream. Oh, Nikki's coming back in. I wonder if she got disconnected. So in my stream, this one right here was not at the very top. I had to click move to top because every time I was doing something new in my Google Classroom, this list of goals kept getting bumped down. And so even this morning when I added something, I had to go move to top. And you can drag these around, but it does you can see down here. Oh, look at some of you have left me messages. Excellent. These are all like the updates, okay? I wish I didn't have to see them. Now I could go in here and I could move to top. I don't want it at the top. I can edit or I can copy the link. I can't really get rid of them. So if anything, it's kind of, I tend not to scroll down there. I tend not to have students scroll down there. I try to keep everything they need right at the very top. so that they know they're just going to read the top message and then they're good to go. Okay. I do have a saved announcement. So if you can see here, I'm going to minimize that again. I can make a message. So let's say on Monday, I have a message for my students, but I don't want them to see it yet. I'm already planning. I don't want to do this over my weekend. I don't want to have to do it Sunday night. I can save a message as a draft. So I did some of that with you all today. I believe I saved this one down here where it says in classwork tab, you will find sample assignments. I saved that and just opened it up at 10:50 this morning. So I can save things and then release them. And I just down arrow here, I can choose or choose my save announcements. And this is just ways to organize. So these are just some of my notes. I'm gonna actually open this draft. You can see that ways to organize content, and these are just different ways that I might recommend if you're putting a lot of stuff in Google Classroom. And I may decide that I want to schedule this. So I may say, well, I'll schedule this for you all to see next week because I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I can post it right now, or I can keep it as a saved draft. That feature is fabulous because we don't want to be on Google Classroom all the time trying to go, oh gosh, should I post that for them? Or where's that at? Or I still need to type that. It's nice to have those ready to roll, and they appear right at the very top. So I can keep those now. I could make an announcement for every day of the week, have them all ready to roll. I can either schedule them or I can keep them as drafts and run them that morning for students. Okay. So I have two things in yellow because these are two of my favorite pieces to this page. So this is my stream page, and you'll see in yellow it says upcoming assignments for the week. If there's one thing that I would want my students to do consistently is to always go and just click on that. So see it says upcoming, no work due soon. I would say make sure they click view all, and they could see a list of assignments that they have. So I can see here that I've assigned it, how many students have been assigned and how many have done it or completed it, or how many have I responded to. Okay. So this gives them a list of their assignments. I can't tell you how many times students would say to me, I didn't know I had an assignment. So I would always say, first, as soon as you get logged in, click view all, make sure your assignments are turned in. Sometimes they do an assignment and they forget to click turn in. So we're going to talk about that because that's a little tricky. So my other favorite part to this page is not only this quick view here so they can see the assignments, but also this reuse. You can click reuse on anything you post in Google Classroom, a comment, an assignment, an article, a Flipgrid, anything that you've used before or posted can be reused. And it can be reused from another class. So let's say I did something. This is how I pulled all those assignments in. I didn't recreate them. I went to my New Teacher Academy, Google Classrooms, and I just reused those assignments for you to be able to see them. So I pulled in a Google form, I pulled in a Flipgrid, I pulled in assignments, and basically didn't really have to do a lot to it. So let's try that real quick. I'll show you how that works. So if you don't have any assignments, it might not do anything. But this little reuse post is pretty awesome. So right now I'm on my stream page. I don't normally like to reuse post on my stream page, but I'm going to see what I have. So I can go here, and these are all my Google Classroom New Teacher Academy posts that I posted. So I can pick. Okay, here I had one. I'm going to reuse this. We use Mentimeter to gauge their and follow their learning. And so I want to bring this post back up because I'm going to repost, say I did Mentimeter with you. And so here's the activity, here's the attachment. I can change anything. I can close the PDF and add a new one. I can change the directions. I may only want one student, maybe I only want Brandon to see this assignment. I only want Ann to see this assignment. I can uncheck and check who, or I want Diane to see this activity. So I can pick who's going to see it, and then I can post it, or I can schedule it for next week, or I can just save it as a draft. If I decide I do not want it, I can just trash it. And it stays in my original, but I decided I'm not going to reuse that announcement. Like I said, I tend not to put a ton of announcements on here because this page gets a little messy. There's not a good organization strategy here. And if I was to give a suggestion to Google Classroom, I'd love to have like categories or topics here that I could organize, maybe by week or by month. I could keep things organized. So this reuse button, pretty awesome. Down here it does show, I showed you a little bit of that, how many assignments I'm waiting for, how many are turned in. And of course, this is really important, upcoming assignments for the week for students, so that they can see what work they have coming up. Okay. So if you want to create an announcement, very easy. You just click on the little add an announcement. You can type something in there. The first time students get in, I think it's really nice to have like a welcome. Hey, welcome. Good to see you today, and give them a little direction as to what to do. It's nice to have something there for kids to see when they first log on, or even each Monday, you know, welcome back. It's Monday and today we're gonna do, just to kind of greet them, it's nice to have that announcement. You can always go back and remove it when that class is over, but to have that greeting. Okay. So when you create an announcement, you can choose all the classes you want to see that announcement. So let's say you have 6 hours a day, you want to post an announcement, you want it to appear in all your classrooms. Or you have science in the morning, you teach math in the afternoon, you want all different students. Or you have the teacher next door, you have her students in the morning, you have yours in the afternoon, you can assign it to both of those classes. So you can pick which students. The only problem is if you choose more than one class, all the students will have to be selected. So you can't pick multiple students from different classes, if that makes sense. Type your announcement here. You can add an attachment. I love an attachment. I love to add a video or something for them to reflect on, or kind of a launch and engage activity for them. That's nice to have a little link there for them to go to. And then this piece right here, I know I've said this already, but this is probably my favorite change to Google Classroom. This was not here when I when I taught. I did not have the ability to schedule or save drafts. And so basically anything I posted was like instantly posted. So the next 4 slides are going to walk you through this. So I did mention that, ooh, I've got a delay in video. There it goes. I did mention that I could pick which class I want this announcement to appear in, or I could click all my classes. I can choose, if I chose just one class, I can choose which students I'd like to see that message. And then I can add something. I can add a Google Drive file. I could add an internet link, a YouTube video. And so those are just options there. And again, this is so awesome. Save, draft, schedule, or post. So sometimes I think about this, like I have a really good idea, but I don't really know what directions I'm going to give yet. But I found this really cool video and I have a thought. I can get it in there, save it as a draft, and know that I can come back and edit it and then assign it. I don't know why I put this slide in here again, because I did go do a new screenshot of this. This little button, this reuse button, actually appears in your assignment, your classwork tab, and in your announcement tab. So I know what I did. I just went through. Oh, Nikki's coming. Nikki's joining us again. Oh, poor Nikki. We must have an internet problem. Yep. And so this is just some of the notes here about if you're reusing an assignment, you can say where you want to get the assignment from. Where do you want to copy the assignment from? I actually did that little demo for you already. And I can, I just want to make a special note here. So if I'm going to reuse an assignment or a post, and I go in and I find that, I want to make sure that I click down in the bottom left-hand corner here, create new copies of attachments. Let's say it was a document where I let students comment, or I saved it somewhere. I don't want to affect that original copy. I want to make a new copy of those attachments. When I'm doing reuse, I want to make sure that box. I wish it was a default. It's not a default, so it is a good idea to click that. I mean, it's not a problem if you don't, but you will lose your original if it's something students are editing. Okay. This particular one, you can edit an announcement if you've posted an announcement and you want to change something about it, or you want to change the link, you can edit that announcement. That's possible. You just click and edit. Okay. All right, that was Stream. Classwork is a little bit, you're going to find some of this is just repeat. So I apologize if you're like, oh my gosh, we already went over some of these tools. Some of the tools are the same in Classwork tab. Any questions, Diane? How are we doing there?
Just Brandon's continued support, things like the scheduling tool are a game changer, and that they didn't have some of these tools earlier.
Yeah.
It's earlier iteration. I just indicated as well that that Google is responsive to users in the field. So using the suggestions button is really helpful. They do respond if they get enough input. So never think, nah, I just won't complain. Always give them input. The more they get, the more they change for our benefit.
Absolutely. They've come great distances from when I started this process, and even having different tabs, that's wonderful. The Classwork tab, like if I could say, don't keep something, don't ever get rid of it. This is my favorite component to the Google Classroom. It allows for us to do some really neat organization, keeps kids organized, keeps us organized, and we're going to go through some of those pieces to that. So in yellow, of course, this is the most important piece to this page, is the create. So I can create questions, assignments, topics, materials, anything that I want to put on this page, I click create. There are a few other pieces here. Notice that I have assignments organized under a category. And then way over on the far right, we're going to talk about Google Calendar and Google Drive. This program is completely integrated with Google Drive. So all the work that goes in, everything you post, Google Drive creates a folder for you automatically and puts all this material in it. So everything you put in here is duplicated and put in a folder in your Google Drive, and it makes the folder, names the folder, and probably one of the neatest pieces to this program. Keeps us all organized. So if you click create, you'll see all the listed items there. I'm probably a material person, especially with my New Teacher Academy. I'll come across something or an article I want to share with them, or maybe a link or an idea or a thought or an assignment, and I might not actually want them to have a due date. Like I don't want it to be an assignment and I don't want a due date, but I want them to look at it and process and think about it and reflect. That's where I put it in material. You can probably use that differently depending on, like here they talked about like a syllabus, you know, like using that as a syllabus. So there's your reuse post as well. That's very cool. But down here at the bottom, I would encourage you, before you create an assignment or anything there, to create what's called a topic, because the topic are your categories. So I made categories in mine, and my categories are in-class work, homework, and resources. For teachers right now, as I'm following all these teachers online that are providing materials to their students, they are naming their topics by their weeks. They're saying week 1 and putting the date, week 2 putting the date, week 3. You can have as many topics as you want. You could have topics for like when you come to, or when you get into class, like launches, and then work to do, and then when done, and so, or challenges. So you could have it organized many different ways. So material is one thing. I put that under what's called resources. When you add materials, this is so cool. I tried to make this red box yellow, but I couldn't because it was a screenshot. It wasn't an object that I was, or a little call out. But down here with the red box, I can say I'm going to add material, and maybe I want to just create it right here on the fly. I can just go in, I can create a Google form, a little questionnaire. I can create anything I'd like to be their list of materials. I can either link to something or create something. The create feature is new since I've used this, and it's really cool. And then over on the right in yellow, not to say the other call outs aren't important, but over in the yellow, it says add to a specific topic or create a topic. Every time I post something, I always put my material under resources. But wherever it goes, do you want your material to be under like which topic? And so here, I would try not to miss that, not to say you can't drag it, but this really keeps things organized. And again, you can post, schedule, or save a draft. The quiz assignment, the most popular quiz that people do is they actually create a Google Forms quiz. And you can do it right inside the assignment. You have multiple choice, drop down, constructive response. And so there are more than that. There are many different question types you can put in Google Forms. So back to this one, we did material, we did quiz. I'm going to talk about assignment next. So I apologize, I'm not going in order. That wasn't very smart of me. When you create an assignment, you can add links. Notice way at the bottom on the far left, you can allow grade importing. Again, I've not utilized that feature, but that is something new. Setting due dates. So this is a tricky one. I may not set a due date right away. I may wait to set a due date later. When you set the due date, it appears on the student's on their calendar, on their Google Calendar, if they are using Google Calendar. And sometimes dates change. So I probably wouldn't assign a due date if it's due 2 weeks out, because I don't know where we'll be unless it's something we're already working on. And another new feature that's very awesome that I played with is add a rubric. I'm gonna jump out of this slideshow, and I'm gonna show you my rubric. At first I was a little intimidated by it. I wasn't really sure what that was going to look like. But in my Google Classroom, under homework, I have set up a Flipgrid account. Okay, and so my assignment for my new teachers is to set up a Flipgrid account, and I show them how to do that and what that's going to look like. And then here I have a rubric for how I'll assess them. And when you click on rubric in the assignments, you can fill all this in. So I typed either they'll get 5 points, awesome, a clear assignment was explained, almost there, or not yet, that's 1 point. And then I have 2 pieces to my rubric. This is one section here, that's their video response. And then the next one is about their voice and can I hear them and did I understand what they were saying, were they clear? And they get 3 points for that. So the rubric sets up, it's an 8-point rubric, and it sets up for 5 points for the first section of it and 3 for the next. And Google Classroom allowed for me to just fill in the boxes. It does all the work for you, really. It just allows you to fill in the boxes. That may not be where you're at right now, but if you can just kind of think about that, if you get to a point, I think the rubric really holds some accountability for some kids who are like, well, what is this worth? Are you going to collect it? Is it going to be graded? You know, I think we hear that all the time. Is it homework? Do I have to do it? And I think that rubric just puts a little bit of accountability back on them to go, oh, wow, yeah, this is worth 8 points and I need to do this and this and this. And it really gives them some details as to what your expectation is. Again, post schedule, save draft. It makes me smile every time I read those 3 things because that was not an option before. So this I mentioned is the most popular way for people to make quizzes in Google Classroom. And so Google Form is an option you can choose under Create. It allows for you to go in and add questions, add items. You can make an answer key and it will check it for you, which is very awesome. But you have to be really careful about that, because let's say it was a math problem and the answer was 7 apples. In my directions, I might say just type the number, the digit, do not type apples, because you'll have kids who will capitalize or spell it wrong. And so if it's correcting a constructive response, a short answer, it will have to be exact. I know in Elluminate, there are some features that are built in that will allow it to recognize, and I do not believe Google Form will recognize anything but the exact answer. So let me know if you have found otherwise. But this is a great way to do like an exit ticket, or I want to know what they know before we start an activity. I can really gauge their learning. Or maybe at the end, like here we have our learning goals today. I could actually have you reflect on your learning goals and give me some information about what you learned and what you'd still like to learn. So it's a neat way to have interaction with kids and to get all of them engaged, because they're all opening it and they're all giving their own personal feedback. So under the quiz setting, I know this is really tiny. I should have zoomed that in a little bit, but these are lots of different options you can have under the quiz settings. So depending on what you want them to see, what you want to show them, do you want to respond to them and tell them which questions they missed? Do you want to show them the correct answers? And so there are different options there. That is something I do not have a lot of experience with, because that was not available. And we've not done a lot of that with our new teachers. We actually do, you saw in our Google Classroom, we do a survey. We do a lot of surveys, but we've not graded any assignments for them. We figure they come in the evening times and we'll make them do any work like that. So we've done quiz, material, assignment, and then there's a question. And it's if you want to do a real quick exit ticket, like say, oh my gosh, there's 2 minutes left, I can do this. I'm going to throw a little quick question up there, or maybe a thought to have them reflect on, and I can do a quick. It's just a question. So again, kind of a cool. I think they're listening to what teachers are in need of, and that's a pretty neat feature. So when you create a question, you can set the type of question to be multiple choice or short answer. You can decide if students should reply to each other. So can they see each other's answers? And the last bubble there down here where it says allow or display students' ability to edit their answers. So I don't know if you use Pear Deck, but Pear Deck is a really neat engagement interactive slideshow. And I usually turn it on and say, you cannot change your answer after you see what other people answer. Or you could say you can change your answer, but you need to explain why you decided to do that. Because I think it's important for them to be able to change it, but depending on what way you want to use this tool. So neat features down there to be able to, I think it really make it teacher student friendly. So assignments, I gave you in-class assignments and homework assignments, and I actually didn't give them to you, but I showed you some samples. You can create and share them with students or give them to one student. So that's the neat piece of an assignment. So let's say I have 4 kids who really just need an enrichment activity, and I have assignments already in there for them ready to go, and only those students will see that assignment because I've only chosen their name. I think it's a nice way to differentiate and maybe I have some students who just have to practice their flashcards or multiplication facts, and I have a link to a website that does that for them, and I've just assigned that to certain students. So this could even be utilized in an environment where you have centers, or you're doing daily 5 or daily 3, where you have kids going and doing different things. That the material resources and the links could all be in here, and they would know what to do. So the other pieces to create an assignment is you can do the rubric, yay! And I encourage you to play with that if you're comfortable with Google Classroom. You can have some fun with that when creating that rubric, make it exciting for kids, and maybe even have them help you create the rubric as you're creating a rubric for an assignment. So down here, next to the assignment, this, if I was to say, like, I was going to highlight a slide, I love the reuse, but I also love this feature. So this allows the assignment to have 3 different ways in which it can be used. So number 1, the first option when you give an assignment, and say, here I'm just linking a Google Doc, but I could link a Google Sheet or a Google Slide or something. If I give the assignment, do I want students to just be able to view it? So maybe I want them to look at it and then do a writing in their journal, or I want them to look at it and collaborate with those at their table. So if I do not want them to be able to alter the file that I shared, I would choose the first option. The second option is fun, but you have to want to think this one through. If you want to open something, so this is my, I think about my Google Slides with all my quotes from my new teachers. I wanted all of them to be able to edit the same file. Now that's kind of scary sometimes because you hope that they don't change anyone else's work. You hope that nothing inappropriate, or they don't delete anything in there. But if I wanted everyone to be able to work on the same file, I would choose the second option. And the third feature has been around for a while, and I don't know if everyone's using it. This is super awesome. So when the student, let's say they open, I have a routines and procedures spreadsheet in the Google Classroom. And when you open it, it makes a copy just for you. And so every student has their very own copy with their name on it. So it puts their name at the top, and it allows them to edit their own copy, and they can turn it in to you, and you have a copy from every single student. That is a really neat feature. It doesn't prevent you from, making these wonderful activities and thinking, gosh, what if a student tweaks this or changes it? They do not have access to be able to do that. So the rubric features down here, I'm just going to kind of buzz over that. I talked about that already. You can reuse a rubric. So if I was teaching 6th grade math, I would probably reuse a very similar rubric for different tasks. I wouldn't have to recreate a rubric every time, or I could reuse it and edit it so I'm not recreating a rubric each time I'm giving an assignment. I don't think every assignment obviously needs a rubric, but there are certain things that we have expectations. We want to make sure kids are know what it is we are looking for. Or you can input a rubric from Sheets. So if you already have a rubric created in Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, you can import it from there. These are all your options on your rubric, how many points. This is how I set my rubric up. This is the template. It's very easy. It just prompts you, it asks you what your titles to be, how many points you want for each section, and then down at the bottom it says add criterion. So I added a second section to my rubric. So I had presentation, and then I also had the speaking and clarity. The neat thing about adding the due date to these is it does appear on what's called the Google Calendar for the class. And so students can click on Google Calendar. I'm going to go back to mine. Up at the very top, there is a Google Calendar button. Now you're going to see all my calendar, okay? This is all the stuff that I have on my calendar. They would only see what's on their calendar, okay? but all their assignments will show up on their calendar. I think that's a great tool for young kids. I know the session today was really for 3rd through 12th graders. But I think getting kids to use a calendar and think about due dates and setting goals and what am I going to do to get there? Like if I have an activity, they could even add in their calendar what steps they'll take each day to get there. Okay, it's 1:18. I cannot believe I've talked this long. Okay, so hang in there, we're getting there. Additional classrooms. So let's say I want to assign something and I don't want to go into every one of my Google Classrooms. I can just pick all the classrooms, like if I want it for 2nd hour, 3rd hour, if I want it for my AM session, my PM session, so I don't have to redo assignments. The only thing is if I choose multiple classrooms, I have to choose all students in those rooms. So if I have an enrichment activity for like 6 kids in one room, I'll have to physically go in and do that for another classroom. So if I just choose a classroom, I don't have the ability to identify particular students. Okay. I can select a group. If I just chose one class, I can select a group just like it was in the announcement. Okay. I talked about post scheduler draft, and you also have the ability to discard drafts. So I tend to save things as drafts until I have an opportunity. I do them a little bit in advance and I save them as drafts. And even this morning, I opened up a number of drafts of things I wanted you to see. So organizing what's on the classwork page. So you can click on, if I don't want classwork to show first, I can drag it and I can put classwork down below. Maybe I want classwork to appear down here and I can put my homework first. Or I want students to see the resources at the top. So I have the ability to reorganize my topics. That's the great thing about having topics. And I can reorganize what's in the topics. Maybe I want to make sure students look at my website first, and then they watch this video, and I can even number them or put them in order how I'd like them to see them. That is a very cool feature. So if a student turns in work, you will have notification of how many students turned them in and how many students are left to turn it in that it's been assigned to. So here 3 students have turned it in, waiting on 2. And then you can click down on the bottom, view assignments, and you can start grading their work. All right, take a moment, stretch, stand up if you need to. I might need to. Let's reflect where you are. All right, do we have any questions out there? You guys are a quiet bunch. I guess Friday was a good day, huh? I do appreciate your time. I was super excited to see that we had 14 people, and that says a lot about all of you to take your time this afternoon to do this. So you are greatly appreciated, and I hope it will benefit you and inspire you. All right, we're going to talk about the People tab. This one's going to be a little faster. The Classwork tab actually takes a little bit longer. So we're going to talk about the People tab. So inside your Google Classroom, you have Stream, which is what everyone sees when they log in. We have our classwork, and again, lots of organization can happen here. You have Google Calendar and a Google Class Drive. We'll talk about that. And next, we're going to go to the People tab. So if I wanted, I could go up here, and this is where I would add teachers. So we talked about this earlier. Let's say I have a special education teacher that works with me, or I have a math coach or a literacy coach, and I want them to have access and be able to post things in my classroom and check students' work and comment on things. I can add those teachers to my group. That's pretty cool. I actually have done that. So we had an after school tutoring program 4 days a week. And I added those individuals who saw my students after school to my Google Classroom. So they could log in and talk to kids about what was in there. And there were always extra resources. So let's say they were in tutoring and they give the story, which they did often, like, hey, I'm done with everything. They could, of course, check PowerSchool to see, but then there were always additional resources and activities, and those after school teachers didn't have to figure out what to do with those kids. So it's nice to give people access. You can change their abilities there, but to give other teachers who see your students, it's nice for them to be a part of that. And then you'll see all of you. And invite guardians is an option that if your district has that turned on, you can invite parents, and parents can decide if they want to get notifications or if they want to see if a student has missing work. They'd only see their students' work, and they're very specific reports that they would receive. I had Googled this on the internet, and there were some really nice articles on what guardians have the ability to do. And then over here, so if I click on Nicole, I can email her directly right here, or I could select all my students. So if I want to select them all right here, I can email you all. So very quickly, I could send out a real quick group email. So if I want to share something with you right now or later, I can create an email and it would go to all of you. Of course, I could remove you all. I'm not going to do that. Or I can mute you all, which just means you can't comment on anything. If I had a student in my class that was maybe making some poor choices about some of the things that they were commenting or posting or uploading for me to see, I might just mute them for a little bit until I have an opportunity to speak to them. So I pretty much did what I said here. I just wanted you to see it in action. So those are your directions for co-teacher, emailing, guardians, and that covers that section. So I want to take a moment to talk about the student view, because sometimes there are things that we forget that students can see, or we forget that students need to be reminded of. So I want to take just a moment to talk about, if I was doing this with students for the very first time, these would be things that I want them to remember. So some of this is review. So reflecting back, we talked about like that on that streaming page, that top left-hand corner, not completely top, I guess, that on the left side, just making sure, having them click on that first, view all, what are my assignments? And then they'll see their assignments, they'll see if they're due or if they've been turned in, and if they have, if they've been graded. It's a great, that could be like a first step. The other thing that I would have you really kind of make a rule, I don't know if rule is the right word, but just really be specific about when they do an assignment, if they don't click turn in, you will not see it. And I cannot tell you how many students were like, oh yeah, I did that. Well, they didn't click turn in. So I think that's sort of a weird, but then I think to myself, if they're still working on it and they don't want to turn it in yet, I think that probably is the reason for that. So really important that after students, they'll see their work in a little folder, and they'll see their rubric. They can see, you know, what they were expected to do at the same time when they go to turn it in, but they have to click the blue button, turn it in. And then the other piece is if they're doing a Word doc and it opens it and puts their name at the top, they have to click turn in here. And the box is not blue on this page, which is interesting. If I was to make a suggestion, I might say make that box blue, but I guess it would match share. But if they are in a Google Doc that they've created, it's been created with their name on, they also have to click turn in. Otherwise, that does not come back to me as the teacher. So a couple of really important things. And then after you click turn in the blue or turn in at the top, they have to click turn in again if they have an attachment submitted, which in this case is the Google Doc. Okay. So just training them to do that. Sometimes I'd hear kids say, did you remember to click turn in? If they turn something in and they change their mind, this is new. This was not here a long time ago. They can actually unsubmit it. So they can go, oh, wait a minute, unsubmit, I want to make a change. I want to make a correction. I forgot to add the video. Oh, I forgot to do number 5. And so they can unsubmit and edit that at any time. All right, couple more things. How are we doing, 127? Diane, how are we doing? Is Diane
Everything's
still there?
looking good. No,
Okay.
no questions. And I don't know if folks want to maybe have a moment to open up their mics and just talk to each other a minute about, is there a specific feature that looks really appealing to you? Or maybe is there something else that you're interested in spending more time on? Maybe people could partner up and decide to explore together beyond the limits of this 2-hour period of time.
Yeah. Any thoughts, questions? You can either type or turn your mic on. I should have attached an evaluation to get some input at the end to know like this might have been good or not good.
Well, you can put it in a class assignment now, can't you?
I will, you know what? That's fabulous. I'm going to do that. We should use Google Classroom for that. All right. Are we good? I feel like I didn't give enough wait time there, but I also know that your time is precious at this point. You were in front of me, I'll wait for someone to speak. So we know how we do that as educators, right? The next piece I talked about briefly, but Google Drive is completely integrated with Google Classroom and it creates folders. And I want to talk about that for a moment and that feature and what that looks like. So in your classwork tab, in your Google Classroom or at the very top, you will see Class Drive folder. And I'm going to open my Class Drive folder because you're going to see I have an activity here. I have some templates. Notice it says do not edit because those are templates in which I created in Google Classroom. And then I have some slideshows, a Google form, a Google Doc, and a PDF. So you'll see all that. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now, when I opened this earlier this morning, that is too much chaos for me. So you can go in and make folders in here and put them in. Like I would maybe want to put like day 1 or day 2 or slideshows or try to organize that a bit. But notice Google Classroom, the title of my class is already in here. So if I backed out to my drive, okay, I'm going to organize it. And I went into Classroom. Oops, I thought I did it by name. I did it backwards. And I went into Classroom right here. And then I'll see these are all my Google Classrooms that I have here at St. Joseph County, and I could open the classroom if I was looking for a file. Normally I just go in through Google Classroom, but just know it's like in your drive under Classroom, and then you could pick the classroom you were looking for. So this was a classroom I ran for our new Teacher Academy, and there are their notes. Okay. So that folder is awesome because everything gets saved there automatically. You don't have to like go, oh shoot, did I put that in my classroom drive folder? So everything gets put there automatically, and usually you don't need to access it for any reason. I went over that already. Okay. So the other thing that I find is that if you were to number or date your assignments, you could keep them maybe in a little bit better order. Like I think about the order, you know, mine were just really random in there. If I put a 1 or I put the date at the beginning of the assignment, it might be an easier way to organize them. So that's Google Drive. All right, I'm super excited about this piece. All right. So is Brandon still there? Or did he leave us? He might have checked out. If you've used Google Classroom before, I'm hoping that some of these features will help enhance your Google Classroom experience. And if you've not used Google Classroom before, this is a pretty cool feature. So it's an extension it's a Chrome extension. And so I put the hyperlink here on the slide. And this is a way, so let's say I'm on the internet and I run across this really awesome video of these kids singing and I think, oh, I want my students to see this and I want them to reflect on it. So instead of like having to go open my Google Classroom and find a topic and make a folder and create an assignment and do all of that, I can actually add the assignment right from my web browser into my Google Classroom. But you have to have the Share to Classroom extension. So you can either go to this Google Chrome hyperlink that's really tiny on this slide, or you can search for Share to Classroom. And if you just type that in your browser, Share to Classroom, like search for that in your Google, and then I click Add to Chrome. And I'm going to show you what this does. So this, again, something new. I think like about all the new things that they're coming out with and trying to keep up with it all, this is one of the neat things. Someone must have come up with this. So what this allows you to do is after you add the extension to your Chrome browser, up in the menu bar at the top, and I don't know if you can see mine, I have Screencastify, I have Relay, Chrome Remote Desktop, and I have different, I have Cami, I have different icons here. And so I have Google Cast, but I also have a Google Classroom icon that's now on there after I installed the Classroom, Share to Classroom extension. And what that allows me to do is if I'm on a web page, so let's say, see if I can find something here. So let's say I'm on this web page and I want to share this with my students. I can just click my Google Classroom extension button. Whoops, I keep getting the drop-down menu. Whoop, haha. I can click the Google Classroom extension button and I can push this to one of my Google Classrooms. So I can push it to you right now. I believe this one is us. And I can push it to students. I can make it an assignment. I can have students read it and have them answer a question. I can ask them a question about it, or I could just put it on my announcement. Now, remember, announcements go on that stream page, and that gets a little messy sometimes. But I can push it to students. Maybe I want to have them answer a question about this. So I can say what classrooms I want to see it, or maybe I want 2 students to answer this question today, and then I'm going to type my question here, and I'm going to have them give me an answer. So I might say, after reading this, what is your feeling about what the author was trying to say? And you can have it be worth like points. Usually I do 0 points for a response like that because it might be an exit ticket, but these are all your options here. That is a super cool feature. Students can also have that on their, if they found something that they wanted to share, students can also do that. So that extension allows for you to quickly kind of tag something and throw it in your classroom without opening your classroom. So here are the directions to Share to Classroom. You go push to students and push, and I kind of showed you that, but those are the details. And like I mentioned, students can share with just you personally. So it gets sent to you, and then you could decide if you wanted to put it on there. So you might give them a few resources to look at, and they're going to share back to you one of them. And here, so we talked about notifications earlier. So when you share to Classroom, do you want the notification to pop up that you'll be notified every time there's something shared to the classroom? This option allows for you to turn that notification off if you want. And so it's a little bell, and it allows for you to turn that notification off. Because if maybe you're teaching another class and you have kids trying to push stuff to you and share it with you. You don't want it popping up, or sometimes even a little bell goes off if you have that turned on. You can turn that feature off. We're almost done. Yay. Oh, we have some questions here. Anything? Oh, maybe I've lost track of the questions. I may have. I think I'm too far out on that.
No, I think several folks have asked whether or not Tuesdays will be like an extension of today, but I've explained it's a repeat. But if folks are interested in further learning, we will be getting together next week and planning further sessions. So specific
Yes.
feedback, do you want more time on a specific feature, or an opportunity for maybe people to go and explore and then bring back things they've learned to share with one another, like a showcase? Let us know what you think you'd like best. We're looking for ways to meet people's needs so you don't lose your minds while you're at home. But we also don't want to stress people out and feel like they have to attend online learning themselves. Just an opportunity to not go crazy.
Yeah, and this could just be something you play with right now, and you put into place when you're ready to do that. And yes, next Tuesday will be exactly the same. Originally, I had like 150 slides, so there are like 50 I'm not covering with you. So we could definitely do like an extension classroom where we start putting pieces in, and we do a Flipgrid, and we do some of those things inside our classroom. So this slide that you're looking at right now, these are Google Classroom partners. There are actually many, many more than this. The next slide has more. And so what we mean by this is Edulab. I circled my favorites only because I use those two a lot. But I know some of you, our colon teachers, are using Discovery Education. Constantine, I know, is using Discovery Education. If you're using Discovery Education, there are many things in there that you can just have it tagged into your Google Classroom, and it just goes there automatically. Edulastic is another one. Edulastic is doing a really great job right now writing NGSS lessons and activities and quizzes and exit tickets, and all of them can be forced, or I shouldn't say forced, but it's like a force into your Google Classroom. And so they could just be assigned in your Google Classroom with just a click of a button. And so these are what the company shared as being popular ones. Again, I circled the two that I like. And then on the next slide, there is a link of 70 plus integrated Google Classroom resources that can be found. And so I think probably the scariest part for teachers is like, I'm not going to have time to put stuff in here or to create things. And so I'm hoping that by digging through some of these resources, you'll realize you don't really have to make a lot. You just have to find stuff. And there's a lot out there that's already been created. And so this link will take you, this was actually at a McCall conference that I went to. Gosh, I remember last year, all of these links were shared. So I even know that there's more than the list has here. You'll oftentimes be at a website where you'll see like a little Google Classroom icon, and that just means it's an activity or an article that you can push into Google Classroom, or if you have the extension, you can push in as well. So we're gonna do a reflect. Oh my gosh, we are rocking for time. So I want you to reflect real quick, and if you can kind of think to yourself what your original goal was. And of course, if I had you on a classroom, I'd have you put your little stickers up on the board so I could see where you were and how well you felt you did. So really reflect on what your goal was coming into this. I hope that you were able to check something off and say, okay, I feel like I have some insight into that. It's hard in a 2-hour session to say, I know how to do it, because we often need to do it to know how and experience it. So sometimes it's just, what will I take away and try? Any thoughts or comments or reflections on our learning goals today? I see some faces, blank faces.